Hi, I'm Ginny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm moderating a panel of brilliant on purpose women who will share tips for living your life on purpose. We're with Andrea Hylen, Bessie Estonactoc, and Shelly Roman. And you can find out more about these three women by going to their websites, which are linked in the text of this video. So welcome, ladies. Great to see you. I actually said before, I'm going to pin myself and I'm leaving. No, I'm not, because I'm moderating. That was kind of a goofy thing to say. So to start with talking about this topic of living your life on purpose, I mean, this is a huge topic. We could do a full day conference on this topic. But I want to start with, what does that mean to you? And that was the question in the breakout room. What does it mean to you to live your life on purpose? I'm going to start with Andrea.
So I have a few words, if what you want, and I also have a short story. So do you want me to tell the story now or wait?
Do the whole thing. Do the whole thing.
So I was thinking about the thing that came up for me was this idea of living consciously, like really having choices and decisions aligned with my purpose. And it reminded me of a time in my life in the mid-'80s when I was arguing with my husband and we had our two little girls in the room. And I caught the eye of my daughter, Elizabeth, who was probably 9 or 10 months at the time. And all of a sudden in my head, I heard, I am not being the woman I came here to be. Mm-hmm. And there was just such a clear out of alignment. And I'd been looking to the elders in my family for guidance, for wisdom, for help in this really difficult marriage. And there was just no support for me actually living my life in a different way. And I just wanted to put that up front, that many times there's a crisis of some sort that leads you to this, I'm not, it's the question, what do you want and what do you not want? And many times the what do you not want shows up. So that's what was just coming to me, was I had to find that within myself. And that was a telling moment of, I am not being the woman I came here to be, which to me means I am not living my life on purpose. So I
love that, Andrea. Thank you. And I'm going to tell a really brief story myself. And that is, my first husband and I were in marriage counseling. We had gotten kicked out, at least I did. They decided that, well, he decided he didn't want to answer questions with me in the room. And so they sent me out of the room, and the therapist and him talked about how they were going to continue to work together. And when I came back in, the guy said, well, I'm going to refer you to someone else. And I was really furious because, once again, a man was making a decision about my life. But yet I was really glad, because I didn't like the therapist in the first place. He was a psychiatrist. He'd been recommended by somebody. He was a doctor. He knew things, right? He sent me to a social worker, a loving woman who had a home office. And I thought that was weird because I knew no one with home offices. I go into her office. She sits, she leans back like she has all the time in the world. She goes, so Ginny, what's going on? And nobody had ever asked me that before. And I said, I think my marriage is ending, but the big thing right now is I don't like who I'm being in this marriage. And that ties into what you were saying, Andrea. And she got up, she walked around, she sat down to the chair, in the chair next to me. She took my hand, she looked me right in the eye, and she said, well, guess what, Ginny? You don't have to do it that way anymore. And I said, I don't. And I wrote a story. I think that was the story I wrote. And was it in your book, Andrea? I don't remember. In one of the books, I wrote that story. And it was for the first time, the shutter opened, light got in, and I knew that I had choices, because my family, you didn't get divorced in my family. You just made it work, whatever that looked like. So thank you for that great memory from me, Andrea, for bringing that up. So Bessie, what do you have to say about this topic?
Well, I have a story too. Another one. There's so many stories, but I think I think hopefully it helps to tie in. I know that I've been very intuitive all my life, and empath. And, in the family, there was a fear of trusting our intuition, which was so interesting to me. And so I took on that fear, but I became more and more curious about my intuition and my empathic abilities. but I was still working as a therapist. And I felt that there was a part of me that said, this is no longer feeling like this is what I need to do. Rather than working one-on-one in therapy and staying in that lane, I wanted to reach many. I wanted to reach thousands, and I couldn't do that as a therapist. And so that was my goal. And at the time, I was actually straddling between working my therapy business and working at an Army base. Very intuitive, really listening, but not really. First year I was there, I sprained my left ankle. And our legs are our root chakra. And, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I know I want to be able to be a coach. I want to move out of therapy. I'll do it soon. I didn't give myself a hard date. The second year I was still there on the Army base. Wouldn't you know it? I sprained my right ankle. So Spirit was going, girl, you have to really listen. It's time. So I made that hard date. May 19th, 2019, I left my therapy business. There's the picture of me jumping for joy that the office was cleaned and I moved forward. And so it's like what helps me to live on purpose every day is to be in, and I love what Andrea said, be conscious. So every morning I go in and I create a conscious intention on what I want my day to be like and what I need to do. And I have my goals. And so I listen through the day on how well am I connecting with those intentions. So living on purpose is moment by moment to me. And I think that's really important to know for myself. And hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you, Bessie. I agree with all of that. Shelly, what do you have to say?
Well, for me, it's become clear to understand what I have power over, what I can control and what I can't, and making conscious decisions based on that. And I have control over me, my personal field, my energy. I have a near field that I have influence on, like who I bring into my life, being here with you guys, who I'm married to, who my friends are, what my home looks like, but I don't have control over that. Right? You guys, today you could end this. You could say, I don't want you to be part of this group. My husband could leave me today. My house can burn down. I have no control over that. And then, of course, there's a remote field, which is all the things I have no control, no influence, anything on. So if I'm staying focused on my personal energy field and following those and doing the things that light me up, that keep my energy high, then I'm living on purpose. And to call back to Bessie, the value of intentions, I use intentions a lot too. And a lot of times in my coaching practice, people will want to know what's the difference between an intention and a goal, right? So my goal is to be part of this panel discussion today. My intention is to meet the audience at the level of their spirit and their heart they want to be. And so it's more internal. So before I do any coaching session, I always take a moment to say, I intend to meet this client at the level of their soul, right? To be that. So.
Thank you, Shelly. Beautifully said. There is a distinct difference between, and I've had that question before, between goals and intention. For me, the intention is who I intend to be typically, and not what I intend to do. It's like I intend to be. And I think that's what you're saying. You're being the person who will meet your clients in that space. When I was, let's see, I left my corporate job on New Year's Eve of 1991. And I had turned 40 and decided the next 40 years were going to be quite different. And boy, I had no idea how different they would be. And then 92 was really my year. I also met my husband, Don, in 92. And, but I started a business in 92. That was not this yet. This was started in 2000. I named my business Live Your Life on Purpose. And honestly, I didn't even think about that when I came up with this title for today. But what was happening then is that as the years went by, I noticed there was all of a sudden all this talk about purpose, books being written, and I saw the idea of purpose almost being co-opted. And it was sounding like this thing that you have to go up on a mountaintop and you have to get quiet and you have to, and you're going to get this download from beyond that says, Ginny, you are here too, fill in the blank, right? And that wasn't my experience of that. I think purpose is fluid. I think it comes to us in waves and dips and in moments of crisis, sometimes in moments of sadness, in moments of joy. And, starting this group came out of someone saying to me, I was happy in a group I was in. And she goes, why are you even in that group? You should be leading groups. And I'm like, what kind of group would I lead? That opened the door that much. I had no idea. 3 years later, it took. And so what I want to know from the three of you, and I'm going to go back with you, Shelly, is right now, since I do believe purpose is fluid and can change and shift, and I think we all, the four of us probably agree on that. Right now in this moment, what do you see as your primary reason for being on the planet?
I'm gonna say it very simply. It's to keep people from looking away from other people's pain. That has been if I could change one thing in the world, that would be something I would change. And when I wrote my vision for my business, it's to minimize trauma, or I can't remember the exact words, but to make sure everybody knows that trauma is, they have the tools they need and they're not ignored or minimized. But to say it even more simply, to stop looking away from other people's pain, because probably everybody on this meeting and everybody listening has lost someone important in their life. And I remember when my mom died, people started saying things to me like, well, I didn't want to ask you about it because I didn't want to upset you. Right? When my brother died by suicide, literally I got back to work, one person acknowledged it because don't want to do this. And if I could change one thing, it would be that we so easily look away from other people's pain.
Wow, that got me a little emotional there. Anybody else just love that whole idea? What a beautiful purpose, Shelly. Thank you so much. Bessie, how about you?
I got so involved in listening to Shelly. Can you repeat the question?
Right now in this moment, what do you see as your primary reason for being on the planet?
Oh, yeah. I'm following my woo-ness. I'm following Spirit's nudge. That my purpose is to help other women shine their light bright, to let them see that they're not a victim in their life, that they can be victorious. And how you can do that is like what you shared, Ginny, is that it's not something outside of us. We have to look within ourselves and really look at, how can I create a life of more peace within me, to shine my light even brighter and feel that peace and calm within me. So yeah.
So even distilled down to the simplest thing, your purpose is, I believe what you're saying, to live a life of peace. And then everything else comes out from that, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
You know,
Because that's some, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I want you to go ahead now because I don't know what I was going to say.
Oh, yeah. Well, because that's my goal every day is how can I be more at peace and learn to be able, because those gremlins are still going to come up because they're my teachers, And so I embrace those feelings enough to acknowledge them, to say, well, wait a minute, that's not me now. This is who I am. And this is the light that I want to be. And I just come back to peace. I come back to peace. So, yeah.
Thank you. The reason I wanted to talk about this today is because I wanted anyone who showed up here today or anyone watching this, to really, if they don't already know this, to know that your purpose does not have to be world changing to have value. You know, maybe, yes, maybe you'd love to see world hunger end, but I don't think one person is going to do that. However, what can you do in your little piece of the world, in your little piece of your room, to affect that kind of change, if that's what you desire to do? Purpose, your purpose could be in this moment, might be to be the greatest example of being a woman to my daughter. You know, to be a joyful grandmother who gives her grandchild opportunities to laugh and dance, and you know, that could be it. Not that that's not huge, but it doesn't get that much notice as an admirable thing. Does that make sense what I just said? It doesn't, people aren't going to say, oh, she's so wonderful because she dances with her grandchild. I think a lot of us would, but you know, you don't get Nobel prizes for that, right? And so I just want everybody to get that your purpose is personal, and it's about you and how you be in the world. And you get to decide how you be in the world. And then that being, as you can tell from our speakers, affects others and it ripples out. So what effect do you want to make out there with your being? Andrea, what would you like to add to that?
So for me right now, it's to be a healthy, well elder. Part of that is cultivating that within myself, continuing to operate from integrity and alignment with my purpose. Part of that is holding space for the next generation of parents and entrepreneurs. And part of that is also coaching women who are my age to step into being an elder. And what does that really mean? How does that actually change the world when we have healthy, well elders who have wisdom and who are also holding space for what wants to grow and evolve with the next generation?
Oh, I love that. So the next question, I'm going to start with you, Bessie. Is knowing what you know about why you're here on the planet, what you just shared, how does it affect your day-to-day living?
Well, you know, I love what you said, Ginny, that it could, that we can affect being just in our part of the world. Say, so for example, I get the privilege to be able to watch my grandchildren, and I feel like I am being with them in a way that's loving, that unconditional love. And I love my granddaughter loves to dance, so I'll hold her and I'll dance, and we just have so much fun. And when I'm in that space of every aspect of my life, and I'm talking about my grandchildren now, I feel that I'm making a ripple effect with them, showing them unconditional love, showing them fun and joy, and really being able to just be with them, with who they are, with their budding personalities. And so I you know, it's like when we can come back to ourselves with more peace and creating more of that peace and conscious, I call it unconditional love for ourselves, then that spreads out. And I can, you know, and with my relationship with my husband, with my kids, my grandkids, it spreads out. And I am being that every day with them intentionally, and helping my clients do that same thing. But it just kind of, it feels like you throw a rock in a pond and there's that ripple effect. So it's like my closer circle, the bigger circle, it just expands and expands and expands. So yeah.
Thank you, Bessie. Shelly, do you remember the question?
I think so. I have an answer I've been curating. So I was gonna say, given my purpose, which the whole thing I said was to not look away from other people's pain. what I realize is what's come into my world in the last year is all this training and modeling about how to do that. I took training last July to be a peer recovery specialist. I've been working on a mental health America Virginia warm line, being present with people. I'm in training to be a Stephen minister and to continue that work. And all of this is adding to my ability to hear myself and my ability to hear my clients and my ability to hear anyone in the world. It just recently moving my dad to employ some of those skills and talking to him, because I did find that even though I have all those skills with my dad, I automatically go to, what are you doing? What do this, Dad? I don't use this. And I have to pause and say, I remember saying to him, Dad, what's your vision for where you're going to live? What's the most important thing there? And once I got into that mode and he could answer, then I could find the perfect place for him. Right?
Yeah. Thank you, Shelly. Andrea.
I don't remember the exact question, but I do have like something that's bubbling. I was
Okay.
thi- I was thinking about how I was never really taught to look within, that I was always taught to be focused on everyone else outside of me. And so part of this, whether we call it purpose or living consciously, is about starting within myself, starting with my own developing inner authority, inner guidance, inner trust of myself. And so it happens in a number of places. One is that just taking some time to journal every day, even if I'm just writing some bullet points about things that are on my mind, or in a sense, I'm documenting my life, and taking some time to meditate, which could be 5 minutes, could be in between different Zoom calls, just pausing for a moment and going within for 2 minutes, just having that time where I'm checking within myself, having some time to daydream. And also, I'll tell you, every program I've ever created, I always have questions. There's always asking questions. Well, that's how I'm doing it too. I'm asking myself questions. And if I don't have the answer, I just ask them, sit with it, see what happens. But that has brought this thing about observing myself and observing the world around me. So it's like I'm living my day-to-day life, and there's a part of me that's observing how I'm living my day-to-day life. Is this aligned? Am I making those choices and decisions? And the last piece I'll just say is, like, I study myself. So, people talk about writing in journals. Well, astrologically right now, Pisces just moved into Saturn, and it's there for 2 years. Maybe you know like astrology, maybe you don't. But it's a large planet that's moved into a part of our chart for 2 years. So I went back to my 9 journals from 1994 to 1996 and just started reading through them. Like, what was the pattern? What was I learning the last time that Pisces was in Saturn? What did I discover about myself? And it's been really fun to like, it's not that the same things are going to happen, and there can be a thread of a pattern where you just go, oh, okay, I'm going to learn this at another level, another cycle. So that curiosity about what I'm thinking, how I'm acting, is, yeah. I mean, I'm sure for some people it'd be feel narcissistic, but when you're somebody who's always looked outside, what does everybody else need? It's actually very healthy to look at yourself and observe who you are in the world and who you want to be. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. And that seems like a good stopping place for this recording, at least. I'd love for all of you observing here on the Zoom call to unmute yourselves and just let's applaud our 3 panelists today for sharing their wisdom and their great ideas with all of us. Here we go. Thank you, thank you,
Woohoo,
thank you.
everyone.
Awesomeness.
And I want to thank anyone who is also watching this either live or the replay. If you'd like to join us for one of our free Zoom gatherings a month or an in-person in Columbia, Maryland, Richmond, Virginia, or Tallahassee, Florida, comment below and I'll tell you how you can do that. Or you can also go to the website, which is in the text of this video. Thanks for watching, everyone.